Tertúlia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Sunday, June 26, 2011. The entry is number 1972. The theme is multidimensional self-respect. The subdiscipline is the self-conscienciometrology. The writer of this entry is our teacher Adriane, who is going to talk to us through Skype. Look at her. She's fine. She's colorful. It's nice. Definition. The multidimensional self-respect is the personal condition of acting multidimensionally in a cosmoethical way with respect, consideration regarding the personal and intraconsciential values in harmony with other people's values, keeping inner integrity in several contexts of life. The lucidity regarding self-thoughts, words and actions, the acknowledgement of the intermissive course regarding the self-potentialities. The glasnost dotting the eyes, the need for argumentation of the positioning regarding the self-respect, the role of the mesology influencing the development of the self-respect. I have read just a few lines. There are over 20 lines. We also have the revealing projections of the self-potentials and the burst of the barothrosphere bubbles. In argumentology, there is a list of considerations. There are 10 postures not aligned with the multidimensional self-respect, 2 conditions to be taken into account regarding the theme, also 26 aspects already considered and analyzed by the consciousness, aiming the development of the multidimensional self-respect. We also have the contexts with social contexts regarding how the consciousness should be treated or should treat oneself. In referentiology, we highlight affection, self-disrespect, evolutionary self-sufficiency, consciential integrity, intersubjectivity. The integrity regarding the personal values leads to the multidimensional self-respect, which is a condition sine qua non to reach the respect for all of the consciousness in the cosmos. Do you take advantage of the multidimensional self-respect? If not, which factors make it difficult for you to do so? Questions. There are some consciousnesses that feel difficult to separate the soma from the psychosoma into the soma. How do they deal with the burning of the soma? Could you talk about your position regarding the fact of Chico Xavier asking for his body not to be destroyed after the soma? Well, first, it's nonsense. We wait 48 hours to burn the body or to bury the person. And Chico Xavier was always afraid of dying. I have worked with him for 10 years, and I know that. He just didn't avoid to talk about the subject because it was impossible, but he was always afraid of that. There were many conditions. He had inferiority complex. For example, he didn't deal with knives or something that could cut. He didn't like knives, nothing like this close to him. related to his temper, and this was not supposed to change in that life. We knew that. So this fear about destroying the body, it's nonsense. But consciousness may be thousands of kilometers far from the body, but if one starts thinking about the body, she or he may start feeling something. It's self-suggestion. Some colleagues, as doctors, have felt they spend too many hours working and feeling the sensation of omnipotent regarding life and death, but not being able to take care of themselves. How to deal with that? Well, give these people the encyclopedia and the basic ideas of Conscienciology and tell them to stop, to quit, to go against encyclopedia. Let's see what happens. Is it possible to create a parapsychical dynamics aiming at retrocognitions? Well, this is the third question regarding this subject. The retrocognition is all a matter of one using energies and parapsychism and making assistance through phantom. There is no other way. Helpers will lead them to retrocognition. It's a consequence of the interassistential work. If one doesn't remember, it's better not to, because there are some problems. So, to the entry writer, for you, page 17, factology, could you talk about the mesology impacting on the development of the self-respect? Do all the ages, all ages feel the impact of this pressure, or is there not a specific age? Well, this mesology problem, I think we all go through this, except for those consciousnesses that are born with a high level of lucidity. But when I talk about this subject, I think that we suffer this pressure, and sometimes we are not lucid, mainly during childhood when it happens. There is an example about a cartoon, which is the ice era. Many people have seen, and there is a character that is called Mamucelli. It's a mammoth, and she is raised among the squirrels, and they tell her that she is a squirrel, and she grows up thinking like that. So I see that many times our lack of lucidity makes the mesology interfere on our potentials, and we grow up believing we are something else, or we have not the real potentials we do have. And this is the example. The character has a completely wrong self-image, but as time passes by and she reaches more lucidity, she perceives that she's not like that. We also have this impact from mesology, but as we know more about ourselves, we perceive the influences of mesology and overcome these traits. For the entry writer, analysis, item 2. Intrusionology. How can the person do cosmoethically when people don't understand and keep on making intrusion? Page 30. Actually, the page is 20. It's intrusionology. How can a person act cosmoetically if consciousnesses don't understand and keep on making intrusion? Well, intrusion happens when we are open to it. We should first make an analysis and see what is our behavior to open to the intruders and the disrespect which is common when they approach our psychosphere. Somehow we opened for these consciousnesses, but as we recycle and we keep our positions clear, that's why I think it's very important for us to put the cards on the table, to talk about what we think, what we feel, because we step by step, we are far from these consciousnesses that in a certain moment of our lives had affinities. We should also stand our position regarding the intruder. And we should say that that consciousness won't be able to reach our psychosphere anymore. But it is important for this consciousness to stand one's position, show that it has changed, because the self-example leads the person to connect to other people and to other consciousnesses, more helpers than intruders. Page 18, Factology. The fact of assuming oneself as it is. Could you explain with your personal example or someone you know? How is ego regarding all this? We change little by little. Sometimes we have a vision that we want to recycle a certain aspect, and we think that the day after we will be able to change, and this is not what happens. We apply, we phase in theory and practice, and we change little by little. You must know that you will make some mistakes, and then you will you'll be able to make some corrections. But there will come a time when you will be able to make the corrections. For example, when you're not able to say no to others, the first time you may not be able to, but soon you will change and you will reach the condition of being able to say no to others. Because evolution goes little by little, but you know that you are making effort and struggling to change, and you will be able to evaluate your posture of changing. It's not just sitting down and thinking that you won't do anything, but applying what you already know, what you are able to, and knowing that you are able to recycle more. Would thanatophobia, fear of being close to extraphysical attacks? Well, the thanatophobia happens because the person thinks that he or she is only this body, and they feel afraid, they are afraid of dying. And it happens most of the times because people are not secure about what they do. If they have the self-sustainability, they don't feel that. I would like to remind you that there is the strong trait consciousness, intraphysical consciousness. We'll have a course in July from day 1 to 3, and the strong trait is the proposer of the consciousness. It will take place in Conscius, the Conscienciological institution, and those who are interested may call the consciousness reception. Self-conscientization of the evolutionary responsibility. I think that it's worth studying. Those who have problems regarding conscientiogram need to go and participate. Now, I introduce you to Adriane. She is listening to you. Adriane, in Factology, page 17, fifth line, there is the glasnost dotting the eyes. Well, in this case, when I talk about this aspect, I mean that we should stand to our position. As we change, it's important to make clear our positionings, because those who like the blurred psychosphere are the intruders. The helpers don't like that. They like clearness, they like reality. So it's important for us to set our opinions and make our positioning clear. Only like that you will be able to have presential strength. Is it clear? Well, in page 19, there is the writer, the English writer, John Wilmot, and I don't know what happened to this guy. According to Count Rochester, the Count Rochester. Masculinology. The third item. John Wilmot. Well, why did I put his name here? Because I had already heard of him, but I started studying him and his life, and he was an exemplar student in grammatics, and he was a friend of Charles II. He wrote poetry, and he used to speak Greek, Latin, French, Italian, and he had a good life, financially speaking, but he used to hate hypocrisy, and he didn't like the lack of nature of his time. Despite of that, he didn't develop self-respect. He didn't have this notion of self-respect regarding himself. So he abused of his soma. He tried to go against all his limits. He died with syphilis, and despite his intellectuality, he was not able to take advantage of his body. and he had no notion of self-respect. That's why I mention him as an example for those who feel like knowing about his life. There is a movie, I don't know if it's the same name in English, The Libertine. I don't recommend you to watch with your kids in the living room, but it's important to know his life. And he was known in the spiritualism movement because he wrote books. Yeah, he wrote psychographies through a medium, a psychic, and there are very good books, and the most serious one is The Romance of a Queen. And when I was making the entry, just to complement, I had worked a whole day and I had a projection where I found myself in front of his house. Well, I met him outside my body. Yeah, he's got a great mind, but he was disturbed because of the intruders. That's why there are some strange, odd books that he wrote. He has his upside downs. When I talked to him, he was too emotional. I could see that. But it is interesting for her to talk about his lack of self-respect. That's exactly the way he is. He's now resummated, so. Regarding Buddhism, what's your opinion about the super virtue, super serenity, super evolution? Well, the virtue is the strong trait. The serenity is related to the Serenissimus, and wisdom is the self-cognition. But in terms of religion, you won't find the best solution. You just take the strong traits and forget the brainwashing of the Buddhism. Buddhism is relative because there was a revolution of the monks, the Buddhism monks, and they even hurt people. For our professor, Factology, page 18. I think that one of the main points of self-respect is exactly the need for putting limits in one's interrelationships. How can we do this with the cosmoethics and interdimensional way, if this is so difficult in interphysicality? Well, this is his third question. He's from Curitiba. Today, Adriane is going to answer his question. Well, let's try. Regarding this item, I think it's important for us to receive the esteem of others through mutual respect. The basis of relationships is self-respect. No matter if it's with friends, a couple, but every relationship has a limit. So we don't need to let people pass this limit when we have our values really clear, what we believe, and mainly how far one should go. We should put the limits, we should set the limits, and only self-research is able to give us our limits. When we know our values, our cosmoethic code, And when we ourselves are passing the limits, it's good for you to make it clear for the person that she or he is passing the limit, and also when you are doing so, for you to make a correction.
Gente, vamos aproveitar, Adriane, que o Skype escapou.
People, the Skype is very good today. There is no vuvuzela sound. The sound is clear.
Pode falar.
Oi, Adriane. Parabéns pelo verbete. Na página 19.
Adriane, here is Marlene. Congratulations. I would like to know about the syndrome of the Queen.
Tá. É o seguinte, essa síndrome
falando dos amigos, das amigas de vocês. Né?
Well, she's going to talk about your friends.
Fato interessante que
well,
enquanto eu estava fazendo
while I was writing the entry, I left to go to the supermarket, and in front of me there was this lady with the shirt written Queen. So I thought about the relation of Queen and my entry, and I thought which syndrome this could be. And I had the following idea. The Queen looks for the external's focus, looks for others' respect, but not always is able to develop this respect within herself. So this syndrome, I think this is this syndrome, this search for other people to have respect for you. But the most serious is for us to have respect for ourselves. And then there was this combination with the bateria of Rio de Janeiro and the samba schools.
Aqui na página 18,
Adriane, page 18, the fragmented respect. Fragmented respect. Well, when we are developing self-respect, we don't have it fully developed. It doesn't come all of a sudden, and you are not able to respect yourself in all levels. But this fragment respect is related to those people that, for example, take care of their bodies but have no respect regarding the energies. They may even know about it, but they don't take it into account. There is another example. You may have intellectuality, but not a single notion of listening to others or making interassistance. So you have a partial self-respect, just in an area of your life. Or those who eat healthy but smoke, or maybe people that care about others but don't care about themselves. So it's a fragment. There is one point, but they don't have it complete. Adriane, page 18, you talk about the burst of the barothrosphere bubbles. I see that respect and our actions impact multidimensionally. Respect is connected to consideration, to keeping oneself healthy, coherent regarding one's values. When we are more coherent with our values and we are free, we connect to extra-physical companies that are healthier, and we will be able to burst these barothrosphere bubbles. When we do so, it will demand positioning, recycling, effort, but when you when you face the problem with new attitude and healthier attitude, is when you burst these bubbles with our healthier behaviors. Well, I will just give an information. Today we are not going to have activity in discernimentum with the Cine Club, okay? Guys, I counted here and there are 36 laptops working here in the discernimentum. Adriana, here, Rosa Ramalho.
Pode falar que ela
She's not listening, right?
Ela aparece.
Well, she's listening to you. You may talk. The myth of the sanctification versus the abuse of the body. I would like you to talk about that.
Desculpa, você pode repetir o mito?
Well, could you repeat, please? Page 19. The myth of the sanctification versus the abuse of the body. I would like you to talk about that.
Quando eu pensei no mito da santificação,
When I
foi por esse
thought
lado,
about
foi mais
the
no sentido de que você
sanctification
não vai
myth,
passar ileso
was not
aos olhos
regarding the
dos
body. I
outros.
was
Cada
thinking
pouco
about
com a questão
the
do ser bonzinho
the
ou boazinha.
belief
Porque
that
a
you
hora
are
que
not
você precisa
you will
manter o autorrespeito, desenvolver o
pass
autorrespeito e
an
impor
image of a good
automaticamente
person.
vai gerar
But
uma
when you
marola,
need
vai
to,
gerar
when you have
processo em que
self-respect
você,
and you need
às vezes,
to
vai ser visto
put some
não mais
limits,
como a
you
boazinha,
won't be
né,
seen
a que
as
é
the
a
good
mais
girl
legal,
anymore, the
mas
nice
que
girl
você
anymore.
vai errar,
Maybe you will
mas
make some
são
mistakes,
de não errar mais, então vai cair, vai errar. E que
although
você vai ter
you
que se posicionar,
don't want to,
né? Sai a
and you
imagem
need
da
to
santidade.
stand
Então você
at
vai ter
your
que se
point.
posicionar, você vai ter que,
So
você às vezes não vai
there
ser
will
mais
be no
querida,
scent anymore.
você não vai ser mais
Maybe
boazinha.
you won't be the good
E
girl,
esse mito da
the good guy,
santificação vai por água abaixo.
and
Foi nesse
this
sentido que eu
myth
pensei.
of sanctification goes down the drain.
But there is also the issue that the one who looks for sanctification performs flagellation, so he acts regardless of his body, willing to assist others. What do you think of it? Yes, people wouldn't respect their soma to keep their soma with some integrity. So what kind of respect is this?
Gostaria de colocar é o seguinte, é porque eu também estou vendo sobre isso que
I am also
deu essa questão para mim, né?
I've been seeing this topic because I'm practicing intraphysical, interconsciencial recycling because of assistance. And since I was a member of the Spiritist movement, it was very valued there to donate yourself completely to the other. And nowadays I see the repercussions of such attitude in my soma nowadays. And it was seen in my self-consciousniometry. I have to take care of my own soma because there are several phases. You have to take care of the others, but also take care of yourself, your soma. So it's a matter of assistance because the soma is the vehicle for heteroassistance, isn't it? Yes, Rosa, can you listen to me? Yes, okay. So I see this topic like this. The soma is essential, crucial for your life. When we are born again, we can only do that through a soma, so you cannot perform a high-level assistance if you don't take a reasonable care of your soma. You gave your own example in Spiritism what kind of assistance can we perform if you don't take care of yourself first and foremost? So I see that the first assistance is for ourselves. It's not an act of egotism. You really have to have a good soma with good health, good conditions to be able to donate yourself. It doesn't mean that you only do assistance when everything is right, when everything is perfect, but you have to take care of this. There is not good assistance if you are not healthy, if you're not all right with your body. You have to take care of yourself first in order to assist the others, right? There is also a book that talks about this sickness, and then it shows what we have to do to ourselves. Now for the entry writer, what can you do when your critical reasoning is highly criticized? I am very polite, and my duo can see it, but then in my family, when I have to do the clarification task, I am very criticized. So what can I do? And in terms of overcoming the bad feelings that come as a result of that, I see that the clarification task is important, and it is a little bit more complicated in our family circle, but it's also important to see what level of clarification task you have, if you're really practicing the clarification task or if it's an evolutionary rape, because the clarification task is important, but is your family prepared for that? Is it the right moment, right place, right time? So I think it's very important when we practice the clarification task to study the context. The moment you are approaching that group, the way you are going to express, to voice your views, your opinions, because we have an emotional attachment with the family, for example. So you have to see if this clarification task isn't an evolutionary rape, because sometimes it's not really helping. And you wouldn't be very clarifying. There are limits for the clarification, and we have to be aware of such limits. Also, if this clarification task is necessary and it's done, but there is no welcoming of it, it means that you have to leave it and let the time go by. So, it's the fifth Eduardo who asks. There are several Eduardos, Edwards, asking. It's the fifth out of 11 questions, so there's something with this name here today, but since this is the fifth Eduardo's question, I have to say that. But now, considering that most consciousnesses don't undergo the second, the soma, what should they do? What is this evolutionary level? It would be good for you to study the Encyclopedia of Conscienciology, because all the techniques that are there will enhance the person's hyperacuity. It's very good to see it, because there are several things. But first, vibrational state, parapsíquism, associations. There's no way out. That's the way to acquire the immediate self-awareness once you leave the body. Recently, in the intrusion session, a female extraphysical consciousness showed up to me, and she told me some things, and it's been at least 17 years with this intrusion, and the seasoned medium that was there clarified the thing And it seems that the extraphysical consciousness was referred to. Why did it stay with me so long? What should I do in order to recycle my life? What should I do to leave behind this intrusion? In addition to the vibrational state and other techniques, assistance, help others, think about others, you will help your own process. Practice interassistentiality, this is the best way. And practice an interassistentiality through the clarification task, not the consolation task. It's no point in dealing with the saint stuff, you have to deal with the logics of evolution. Now, next, I have been checking the entries of the encyclopedia. I see that the prefixes, mega, self, para, and so on are very used. Yeah, and I use over 30 of them. Why is it so much used? Because most of you here, all of you are mega, including you who's asking. If the consciousness is very mega, why isn't it so used, so put into practice? Yes, you have to see you are on the right path, but have you been doing that with your own life? Have you seen your megathosine, which is the materthosine, your mega strong trait, which is your main virtue? That's what we need, mega, mega, mega. But if you want, it can also be ultra, super, plus. Let's just think about it. Now another one. Don't you think about writing a second book on your consciential projections? No. It would be very interesting to compare the first and the second book of this kind. Yes. But there will be a book that I have started writing, which is the Dictionary of Conscienciology Arguments, where I write many things concerning my multiple lives, my experiences. People will say that I am arrogant, egotistical, vain, elitist. The book will bring several things like that. And before all such criticisms, I have planted many banana trees because I will give bananas for all of them, for all those who will be criticizing. Now, for our entry writer, Teacher Adriana, could you talk about page 19, mythology, second line, about the myth of the possibility of pleasing everybody? Yes, it's exactly the opposite of what I've been talking about here. Yeah, because there is no possibility of pleasing everybody. It's a myth, and the first thing that you see when you are developing your self-respect is that, because you have to create, to impose limits, show your values, stand your ground, and then it will, of course, be taken wrongly by some people, and most won't understand yourself because you will be acting differently in a new way. So this is a myth, because there's no way to please everybody. We do what we can, we try, of course, to be sympathetic, do the clarification task as it is demanded accordingly, and so on and so forth. Page 21, Adriana, item 21. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on your beautiful entry. Now, could you elaborate on prosemics? Yes, 21. The fact of the consciousness, the fact of the consciousness needing in some cases back off from a situation or a consciousness that is hampering the self-respect development. Let's imagine a person that, for example, takes drugs. Most times it's necessary to step aside from all the context, the companions, so that the person can have a new position, new approach to life, and it could be done regarding a situation, a context, but also other consciousnesses. A consciousness, for example, that doesn't respect you. So, in order to have respect, you say that, but if that consciousness doesn't understand, you can back off. Sometimes it's positive and necessary for the renovation. Is it clear, Alzira? Yes, it is. Thank you. I have a question. Factology, page 18, first line, on the verbal stigmas interfering negatively in the self-respect development. Can you elaborate on that? Yes. Now concerning the stigmas, because mainly during childhood, when lucidity is not really there are some nicknames or some things that are said, some stigmas are placed on the person, and as a result of lack of lucidity, the person can end up believing in that, believing in the bullying. And this is negative, but let's say that it is, for example, a person listening to someone saying that he never does anything right, or the one that says that his daughter, a 40-year-old woman, is a baby. So it's a stigma in the consciousness. So it can really interfere in the development negatively concerning self-respect, because it will bring down that person, and that person will believe in this condition and have difficulties to develop self-respect. So sometimes we see parents saying, you don't learn anything, you don't do anything, or you're better than everybody else. So these stigmas, these sentences that are repeated are very delicate. You have to know where to avoid it to realize your full potential.
Não sei se clareou para você isso.
Is it clear? Yes, it is. Thank you.
Alô, Adriane. Na página 21, no item contextos, você pode...
Adriane, page 21, item contexts. Can you elaborate on the 4 items that you have written here? Yes, according to Intrapsychology, we have written 4 contexts, like trading in general, family, education, institutions, and work. Yes.
É porque assim, a gente durante o nosso
during
dia a dia, você passa
our
por interrelacionamentos,
daily life,
diversas situações
we
de
deal
contato
with
com pessoas.
several situations, several
E é bom a gente
people,
ficar bem atento,
and it is good to
em
be
quais
very
situações
aware
pode haver
of
algum
the
tipo de
situations
manipulação.
that some manipulation may
Aquela
take
instituição
place.
de ensino,
So,
aquele
for
professor
example,
que pode utilizar
in an educational
do
institution,
poder
that
intelectual dele
teacher
pra vitimizar uma pessoa,
who
ou
uses
até
his
mesmo pra
intellectual power to bring down the students,
colocar o seu poder,
to
né,
downplay
em cima da pessoa,
the
e a
others.
pessoa não tem muito claro os
Yeah,
seus
sometimes
valores,
when the person
ela se
is
deixa
not
abater
really
por isso,
aware
ou
of
mesmo aquela
his
consciência
values, the
que
person
tá
may
atuando
be
no comércio,
really
que ela é sempre manipulada para que ela compre.
maybe
Então, se ela não
really
deixa
in a
claro para ela, a todo
difficult
momento é
situation,
desrespeitada,
so the
ou até
person is
mesmo no
disrespected
trabalho,
all the
aquele chefe
time,
que pela
or for
posição
example
dele,
in the working place,
humilha,
that
ou até mesmo,
boss
faz
that
com que a consciência ache que ela realmente não aprende nada,
humiliates
ou aquele
or the person in the family that blackmails you. So there are several contexts in which we can be manipulated or blackmailed that can really interfere with our values, and in the daily life we could go through such situations without any kind of awareness, and it can take place anywhere.
Tá ouvindo?
Sim, Adriana.
Yes, now concerning the work, there is this moral harassment. The person is subject to that condition and just doesn't leave the job. Yes, if the person is in a condition that the person needs the work, sometimes the person is subject to that condition. But on the other hand, the person is full of potentials. The person hasn't just put into practice the potentials. Sometimes with some planning, within some months the person can leave that place. There is a book that deals with manipulation. There's this book, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Don't Let You Be Manipulated by Others. And he gives many examples in which the person can be manipulated, and the most common places are the places we are at during our life, and mainly within our family. It's important for us to have it very clear, because when it happens we should have a strategy. What strategy am I going to put into practice when the John Doe uses his blackmail, or when he's trying to manipulate me? There is the book, Professor Mabel's book, that also deals with manipulation, the prophylaxis of consciential manipulation. So it's important for us to be aware of it. Thank you, Adriana. Adriane, here on page 19, paradoxology. Can you elaborate on that? Page 19, paradoxology, the paradox of assisting others without assisting yourself. In this case, I thought of the following. I see some people that saying that they have a good level of assistance, that they are interested in others, but they don't assist themselves. That person that is willing to help, but that doesn't take the pill when it's needed, the consciousness that has to do something and doesn't do, the person that has to do something but doesn't take care of himself first. That's why I wrote about that. Sometimes it's necessary to do this self-welcoming, this assistance to yourself. It's not egotism. It is giving paying due consideration to yourself so that you can help others with more quality. So it's a paradox for me. How can you say that you have good assistance if you don't pay attention to yourself? To have a reasonable assistance, the person has to be self-assistant. Of course, that what's written here, it's possible, but it's not a matter of good assistance. Yes, because it's not qualified. Because our attributes can be qualified, but the inter-assistance needs to be qualified. And to qualify, first you have to give your own example. Then you assist with more quality. Also because the extra-physical surroundings and consciousnesses will be of different level. Yes, but here I see that this condition is possible, assisting others without assisting yourself, but it will be a very low-level assistance. It's my opinion. I think that this paradox may exist, but it's difficult. Yes, it's also the process of having a fragmented assistance. I think that the disrespect is commonplace and it has to be studied. This is a German calendar. It's written here, 62% of air humidity. Here it is 21 degrees Celsius, outside temperature 12 degrees Celsius. But every 2 seconds there is a sun blinking here, a sun shining here. And my eye, because it's very cold. And you see, it's a German machine, extraordinary and so on. But see, it is a disrespect to our intelligence. That's the sun, you know. Every 2 seconds, it blinks there. So you see, even the machines are like that. But Mercedes came today with her ship captain clothing. See, I would like to see if you're going to make questions or not, because, well, but let's see, Malo, now it's your turn. It's just like what Arlindo was saying, because in my perception, the self-unforgiveness doesn't exclude self-benignity, and this thing is not excluded from the other. For example, the person, when the person steps away from the assistance, it's anti-fraternal. How can you be a fraternal assistant if you don't do that? So I would like you to talk about that, because many people think that the self-unforgiveness is the condition necessary, but it's a lack of self-respect also. Yes, I also wrote about this a specific syndrome, but sometimes the person can be a bad guy for himself, and it's your position regarding yourself, because the guilt becomes a monoideism, because the person will invalidate everything he did. For example, the person had a mistake with 99 right things, but the person will only think about this mistake. Sometimes a person had the whole work of developing other potentials and so on, but because of the guilt and so on and so forth, the person will invalidate the whole work that has been done. Yes, I see that the benignity isn't in the text, and I think that this benign attitude, self or hetero, I think that the awakening of benignity is the whole difference here in self-respect. Because another thing that I see here is that the lack of self-respect comes from pusillanimity, cowardice, because you have to really stand your ground and fight against this self-intrusion with boldness. That's it. And I see that this lack of consciential boldness is one of the biggest problems here, because you can just let yourself be disrespected, no problem, but then when you are going to stand your ground and you are going to perform some clarification task, you have to be firm. It's the strong profile. I see that it is the lazy is prone to lacking self-respect. Yes, and it is very easy not to change. And when the first step towards change is taken, it will impact on the whole surrounding environment. And it is very easy not to change when you have to stand your ground, when you have to do a recycling, when you have to be self-sustainable, when you have to stick to your values, you want to let yourself be corrupted. That's the time to stick to your potentials. And I see also that, Malu, it is very easy not to change because it demands work, effort, persistence, a bad face, because sometimes people won't like it, and it's not always easy to deal with, but it's extremely useful because it's much better for you to have an evolutionary fruit from that.
Could you comment on postures, page 20, the relation between the self-respect and the repression and mercy? Well, regarding these postures, this repression is necessary and it's part of this recycling period. But regarding this repression, I think that it's important for us to know that when we are going through this movement, we may go from one side to another. We may reach extreme conditions. So this repression is healthy but demands equilibrium. To the entry writer, not taking care of oneself is sometimes self-aggression that is compensated by care to others. What is the consciential explanation of such behavior, especially for those consciousnesses that get involved with serious and deep assistential work? It's very paradoxical. I see that assistance, regarding assistance, there is inter-assistance. You help others, but not letting yourself beside. You make assistance, but you also need to look at yourself and not be abandoned. There are people that think about others, but they just forget about themselves. So it's good to ask, why did it happen? Professor Adriana, could you elaborate on the technique of the checkmate? I have developed this technique to avoid postponing. So when I need to do something, not something simple, but those things that demand effort and determination, I set a limit, I set a deadline. So this deadline date is my checkmate, which comes from chess, and is when the play is over, the game is over. So if I see that I am postponing things, I set a deadline and I don't go further. You can develop a trait or make some activities, and you will set a limit And from that moment on, you will never postpone again. I am going through my second graduation. I am studying psychology. It's been very difficult to face the setbacks of the science regarding Conscienciology. I feel home doing this course, but sometimes I feel like an intruder with Conscienciology leading at truth. What is your advice? Well, we'd better listen to a specialist, which is Professor Loshi. He's a psychologist and is director of the APEX. I think it's important to discern between the moment when you are in college and when you are acting with Conscienciology, when you are a teacher, for example. We can't push and introduce Conscienciology in traditional college. We need to discern. The best for you is to study psychology because it has lots of contributions to Conscienciology. We consider this to be the profession that is closer to Conscienciology in terms of theoretical aspects, but on the other hand, we can't push, just like I said. People there are not supposed to understand Conscienciology, and sometimes we have a posture of saving people and leading them to Conscienciology. My positioning during college was not to hide. My bosses and teachers knew that I acted in Conscienciology. However, I never intended to introduce them to Conscienciology. If they had the need, they came to me and I could talk. And this is also useful for your family relations. I need clarification. Right after closing my eyes to go to sleep, some light appears like a white sun. This light is so strong that I close my eyes and I wake up. What would it be? Well, you need to check and see if the sensations are good or bad. It may even be a helper trying to improve your condition of paraperceptibility. For you to study this phenomenon better, you should study the projectiology, hypnagogy. Other question. I had lived in the myth of sanctification, and trying to please people, I always said yes to everybody. I tried to stand my ground before a relative I have, but he doesn't care and keeps acting just like before. I don't live with him anymore, and I see him rarely. What should I do? Well, take care of your life, improve your contacts, and forget about the public opinion. Do something in favor of others, and take care of your personal evolutionary sheet. That's what matters. Other people's talk doesn't matter. What matters is your evolutionary sheet. You want too much because during many years you made a public image. Now you want to be a leader and to change everything. But you're still young, you're 32. You are in preparatory phase. Within 4 years, you're going to make your praxis execution. So you can change. During the designing of the entry, what was the topic that called the entry writer's attention? Was there any evocation? Well, several occasions.
Mas assim, o
But
que eu achei muito positivo
the most positive was
dentre os temas
among
foi
the
a questão
themes
dos primeiros dias em que eu estava trabalhando
were the first days I was working on the entry, and I had this projection with John Wilmot. It was not with him, but in his house, and identifying this person, an example of lack of respect regarding one's existence. And there were also several positive conditions and circumstances with consciousnesses that I was able to clarify. There was this day when I was making the entry and nobody knew. And there was this talk which I was not taking part in, but there was this person talking about respect. And she said, respect is good, and I like it. So this sentence showed me that I was on the right way, and I have been working throughout the years to develop my multidimensional self-respect. Nobody at that time knew, and until now, that I was working with the entry. But when we write, our action impacts on the environment. It affects not only you, it affects those people who are close to you and those who do not even know you. What is the relation between the multidimensional self-respect and the homosexuality? Well, I respect homosexual positions, and I think that we should see the level of permission or promiscuous condition. I have seen a program, a TV program talking about the extreme risks, and they talk about the barebacking, which are sexual games. There are two groups of people. One group is called the bug chasers, and the second group is the lift giver. They have AIDS and they are supposed to contaminate people. So it's an example of self-disrespect regarding holosoma. With a pathological condition, I had never heard of this, but there is always a way of disrespecting oneself. And for those who have active or a companion, or if they are married, sometimes it's good, but when they have several partners and promiscuous conditions, it's bad. Many people ask me to send their cases to Pentapractice in CEAEC and ask for help on writing the request. Could it impact on my psychosphere or generate intrusion? Am I making something wrong? No, you're making assistance. There's nothing against you. Come on. But try not to write the address in a very small paper. Write in a big, normal sheet of paper. Some people put that small paper in a big envelope, and you think there's nothing there, but you see there's a strip. they are worried, they have problems, so their communication is bad. So it's important for you to help these people to make the right communication. It's assistance, very good. Adriane, in another entry made by another teacher, she was talking about the weak traits. Now you talk about the surgical cut of the self-sabotage docents. How can we do this? This would be great. Well, sometimes we couple with negative thoughts regarding ourselves, and we disrespect ourselves from our thoughts. Some sentences like, I don't know, I can't, I have no potential, I haven't reached this condition. These sentences are related to self-sabotage. But if our thoughts are already distorted, just imagine how our actions can be. So the minimum perception, the minimum identification of a thought against ourselves, our self-aggression, should be cut. And we should not let this continue. I use some strategies. If I have a book, I have always a book nearby me, and I try to read something nice, something healthier, or I work with my energies. Helps me a lot, exteriorizing energies, because there may be external thoughts like hetero intruders, but they only enter if we allow them to. So we need to make the hygiene. If you don't have a book nearby, you can talk to people close to you, you think about something else, you even read a joke. Whatever you do in a positive way that makes you clean your mind and change the thoughts is good, because you cut immediately. Adriana, page 18, Factology. You talk about the interest, about conflicts, problems. Can you talk about this related to the self-respect? I see that first, to have self-respect, we need to consider ourselves. So I see the importance of self-research, which is an interest regarding ourselves. As every development of attribute goes through the level of interassistence, I see that this interassistance implies on an interest for others, dilemmas, problems. This is interassistance. If I have this level of interest on other people, there is a real interaction. So assistance goes through this interest. And I talk about this subject within the multidimensional self-respect because the self-respect should be the first one considered for us to find solutions. And only after that we could have interest on others, on how to help others, but we can only develop respect for others if we have self-respect.
Aqui na página 18 também,
on page 18, Factology,
o ato de calcular as ações
could you talk about the act of calculating the actions to have more assertion. Well, I'll give you an example. Let's say you have to make a clarification task or to take your position. Whenever I talk to people, I try to study their context, how they think, how they act, what can be my approach. So the fact of calculating is for you not only be assertive to you, but to others, for those who receive the clarification task to be able to understand you. How can we reach a consciousness if we don't know their context? It's in the sense of encompassing the maximum number of information to make a better clarification task. Just like I said, the context, dislikes, likes, sometimes even the way of speaking should change. I'm not going to talk just the same way to an 80-year-old person and a 15-year-old person. That's what I think. Adriana, I would like you to elaborate on the item number 19, politics.
Item 19, parapsicologia.
Parapsychology. The fact of the application of multidimensional self-respect be a parapsychic act regarding oneself. Well, we have the right to have self-respect and receive self-respect. So we are always deciding something. In this item is the fact of this self-respect being an act towards yourself. Only after that you will expand, you will spread this condition to others. First, I need to apply it to myself. It's not the opposite that happens. I don't receive hetero-respect first and then develop self-respect. First, I develop my respect and I receive the hetero-respect later. Is it clear?
Na página 21,
Adriane, page 21.
Sobre análise 21 proxêmica.
About the proxemics, the facts of the consciousness need to be a part of what happened to reach self-respect. Well, it's the fact of the consciousness being needing to be far from the source of lack of respect. So I'll give you another example. If there is a woman that is not able to develop self-respect, there may be a situation when she will need to leave her house, her husband, and the context where she lives, so she can develop the self-respect because the husband doesn't respect her.
Adriana, aqui no ar. Na patologia, na página 18,
Adriana, factology.
Os conflitos íntimos mal resolvidos, eclipsando o autorrespeito
The bad
multidimensional.
resolved conflicts.
Comentar a respeito?
Could you talk about that?
Ele já perturba intimamente
Well,
a
it
consciência.
disturbs
Então é importante
the
ver a
consciousness.
necessidade da gente ter
So I think
listado
it's important
ou ir
for us to
diminuindo ao longo
list
do tempo os nossos
or
conflitos,
diminish
para
our
que de
conflicts
fato a nossa realidade possa vir à tona.
so
Então, se a
that
pessoa
our
tem alguma
reality
mágoa,
will
se
be
ela tem
able
alguma
to
dificuldade
come up.
de
if we have some resentment or some potential that we're not able to develop, or some not, any conflict keeps like a cog, like a clog in our psychosphere, because the conflict was not solved yet. It's very common we have a resentment. Sometimes we see people that are not able to go further to push the limits because there is something unsolved.
Adriana, aqui também na parafatologia da página 18.
Adriana, parapsychology. Could you talk about the last item, which is the burst of the barathosphere bubbles? In this item, while you develop your self-respect, your potentials come up and you improve your potentials. And from this condition, you're able to burst the barathosphere's bubbles. What is disrespect? It is when you violate everything you have as good qualities. So when you rescue yourself with your self-respect, you burst these bubbles because you couple with more healthy consciousnesses. In another section, analysis, you talk about the fact of the Serenissimos extrapolating the self-respect because of the polykarma. Could you elaborate on that? Well, I'm not fully competent to talk about Serenissimos, but thinking about the theme, it came to me that the Serenissimos doesn't have this ego problem anymore regarding achieving self-respect, because he or she is completely inter-existence. So everything is beyond, it's mega, it's poly. They have overcome this problem. And I also talk about the counterpoint, that to reach this level we need to achieve the self-respect and then the hetero-respect until we reach the Serenissimos condition. The Serenissimos doesn't need to worry about this. They're just inter-assistants. I would like to talk about the surgical cut. I am a little bit late, but I just found out about these two books, the mini definitions and the maximums of Conscienciology, much better than other books like Wisdom Minutes. I think that it has minimum sentences. They are very good. I didn't understand one of his sentences. So, prisoners think freely. If you could explain a little bit, Professor. I am talking about your book. Well, I didn't understand. I was taking some notes. The Megathocene. What about? Well, you talk about prisoners that think freely. Prisoners think freely. Well, if you put someone in jail, the person may think freely, despite the jail. Unfortunately, many people don't understand the extra-physicality. They are intruders and possessors, and they give the exothecines and they enter people's minds. I was thinking about other kinds of prisons. Well, it's important. It's impossible to put me in jail because I can get out of my body. I have done this in previous lives. That's why I value projection, conscious projection. Others have done this too, with some techniques. Within history, there are dozens of people that went to jail, spent some time there, and wrote a book that created problems to other people. And in most cases, those were the main work of their lives. So you may think without anybody interfering in your mind. It's all yours, but people don't value this. Our main problem is to improve our mother Thosin, to have a superior, advanced, evaluated, cosmoethical thought, so it can encompass our manifestations. Whatever we do, that Thosin will guide our manifestations. So it's the mother Thosin. The best is to reach the Serenissimus condition, because the Serenissimus that have the mother Thosin of serenity, they already have the mega strong trait of serenity. So it's all together. They have reached a level, they master the complete life conditions. That's why they need to go to some other planets and live this life here. Adriane, could you talk about the item number 26, universalism? Universalism, in this case, we have evolution with others. Nobody evolves alone. But we are the most important consciousness for ourselves. And regarding the evolutionary process, the responsibility is unique, is exclusive. When we die, there will be no bodies to make a camouflage, there will be no clothing to hide, and the responsibility is exclusive. But the fact of being responsible for our evolution doesn't mean that we are the center of the universe. There are thousands of complexities within the universe. We are a mini cog within this mechanism. That's why I talk about the universalism. So we start with self-respect until we reach the poly-respect.
Here on letter A, Professor Waldo. On letter A. Here, up here. Are you fine? Ah, Tiago. Don Tiago is going to speak. Let's listen to him. We have concluded the third, we concluded this morning the third meeting of the IIPC volunteers. Were there 200 people? Yes, there was this energetic work today. 187 people were present. We are thinking about qualifying and expanding. I would like to ask you, because you have been there on the first day, and I would like to ask you if you have seen something from the extra-physical dimension. What I see is that when there are lots of new people, it brings problem because there are new things to deal with extraphysically. But maybe it's the cold weather, maybe it is inhibiting new problems. But I see that there are new faces around here, and I think it's extraordinary. What I see is that the Institute is very mature, the techniques, the processes, the procedures, everything after 23 years. I see that the thing is very well consolidated. There is a tradition of doing things, a fruitful tradition, which is building this holothought scene. I see that this is the Institute in itself. The Institute is bringing this positive aspect. That's why I think that it's up to the Institute, because I haven't seen 200 people here for a long time. That's what happens. It's a real invasion, because if we don't go earlier to the restaurant, the queue will be very long, the line will be big, so it's an invasion. But this time everything was very easy, calm, there wasn't something to call our attention, anything negative, but I think that we should talk to Fred and his team to give them a round of applause. Maybe when Fred comes here, we have to ring the bell and let people know that the Institute CEO is going to speak. But I see that the holothought scene is very well consolidated, and you have to give value to that. That's why I said those things to the people there. We have to enhance this condition. Many people came there, but you know that the basis, the matrix of this consolidation were the inverters. The inverters, the first generation inverters, all of them were inverters. They were the ones to give support to the whole process. It wasn't me. I was this pro forma president. I just wanted to leave. I was the CEO, but I used to travel a lot, and they were coordinating things. I would just come, oversee the whole thing, and leave. I was giving courses abroad and so on, but they were the first coordinators, the first generation inverters. And the environment there was very strong. It caught my attention. There were several female helpers on the day I was there, more than men, extraphysically. So it seems that the women are taking over here. It's not only the ministers and the President of the Republic of Brazil, but here too. Manaus, for example, there was just 9 women and the big boss. And some new coordinations with new departments with women and so on and so forth. I see that the Institute has become a real school, so it has to do with this motherhood process. That's why there are lots of women in education and in schools. Women are extremely important, so we have to think about that. Professor, I would like to take advantage of your tip to ask something that leave lots of people responsible for education anxious. We have talked about respect, self-respect, and there is an item that talks about the family responsible for the child's hetero-respect, and it seems that the bullying is taking over, and it is very worrying, because there is a physical aggression. Yeah, it's a lack of orientation. The Ministry of Diseducation. Brazil lacks education. Brazil is without any education at all. But the focus is on the school and not in the interphysical society, because what happens in the school, the bullying, is a reflection. It's a reflection of the interphysical society. Yes, we have to call upon the family. We have to bring them together. My mother used to think about that back in the 30s. 80 years ago, she used to talk about that. So there should be an integration with the family. It can't be the student by himself without any follow-up. We have to see what goes on case by case. Many projects won't ever leave the paper, won't take off. Yeah, Brazil in terms of education is a deplorable condition, one of the worst. And you see, with this very big population, there are people really crowding places and the new generation coming up, and I don't see a way out. One of the worst things is education within criminology. There are no places to imprison the criminals. And I read about a judge, he had to release 2 people because there were no places to arrest them, to put them in. So you see, this is a problem. The innocent people are locked in their houses, in their places, so because out there on the streets, the criminals have taken over. So we have to speak up, speak our minds, and try to revert this situation. But now with this, let's pay attention to the Institute and do what they're doing. It is a public utility institution. It is growing, and it has done many things, but you know, we are just a drop in this ocean of problems, but let's do what we can. If you take, for example, this drinkable water and throw it in the ocean, a glass of it, will be enriched in the ocean, no problem. So that's why I think that this institution problem is very positive. The institute has been setting a good example. This is the way. So Jamil is here, even you, Jamil, you are here. I don't know how it was there. Her folks behind to be here. Welcome. Make yourself at home. Now she lives in Discernimento. You see, now she's got a palace. A wood palace there. You get there and there are lots of energies there. And they say it was Bubiaki who lived there. Since we were talking about Barathron sphere, Curitiba and Florianópolis, the educational centers, we are undertaking this task force to work in Blumenau. We are going to give some courses, lectures there. Yes, let's help, let's aid, let's do what we can to help the least evolved. Now, you still have 5 minutes to make questions to teacher Adriana. This magnificent 6-page entry. See, even Mercedes with her cap has already said something.
Uma
Now, curiosity, these entries, when they are created only in Portuguese? Or, yes, yes. Everything is Portuguese. This is the language we deal with. The rest is translation. That's what matters. But our Portuguese is enriched with long words. For example, in factology, there is glasnost, which is a foreign phrase, and so on and so forth. There are always something else. It is a multilingual entry. In omenology, there are 7 omenons, and so on and so forth, in such a way that it's important, but we have to use our native language. I would like to make a question if we still have time. On page 19, she talks about phobiology, the phobia of rejection, the rejection phobia. I would like her to elaborate a little bit more on that and how she deals techniques to deal with rejection, because I see it's something that really hampers our evolution. Rejection phobia, I would like to know from her how she deals with it. Everything okay, Jamile? Now, rejection phobia, what happens is that many times the fear of being rejected, the fear of not being accepted by a group, this fear will make the person disrespect himself. The person will not give value to the things the person has, or the person will be permissive to somebody else's value. So I think it's important to understand that it's important, it's interesting to have somebody else's respect for what we are, not for pleasing somebody else. There is this book, I don't know if you can read it. Good girls go to the sky, and the good girls go to heaven, the bad girls go for it. We have to develop our respect, our potentials regarding what we are. As a result, we may be accepted or not, but we may be accepted by what we are, not by what we should be. Otherwise, we will run the risk of having the syndrome of doing everything of what the other want, and so on. So we have to respect the potentials above all. That's why I wrote here this personal code of cosmoethics, so that the person can develop these values, to have it very clear, and observe that not in all groups will be accepted. We won't please all the time. Dealing with this rejection is part of the game. We can, and we are able to give, to care about ourselves. Now, Adriana, you, since you are one of the most undisturbed people we know here, we are waiting for the other 50 entries of you, okay, extraordinary. So now our commercial break, please. The records of the entries: 103 signatures on the presence book, 24 on-site questions, 23 online questions, 23 presential votes, and 6 online votes. We have Vivian and Gustavo, Holoenergia, Discernimento, CEAEC, João Paulo, Guinea Pig Consciousness, Debate, Conscious, CEAEC, Valdirene, are complementarians. These are the messages we have. Good afternoon, you all. Imagine yourself participating in this exo projection dynamics at night in the falls. This is the newest course in Conscienciology. This course will take place on June 8, 9, and 10. Janer Vilaça, Mário Oliveira, Felipe Mansur, Gustavo Stein will be the teachers. This is an amplification and expansion of the course's Immersion in the Cosmos, and it was amplified, it was extended to a 3-day course. We're going to do this activity in the falls. We start here in Discernimentum. We present the energies of the cosmos that reach us. Then we go to the falls, we do this exo projection there, and on the following day we have one more theoretical activity at night, an observation, and exo projection. So this course is an experimental one. It will be very interesting, and we wanted to do this with the epicenters. We think that we're going to have a very good course, so we would like to invite all of you. Only 3 places, so please sign up for it as soon as possible. Good afternoon. I would like to talk about the guinea pig consciousness. It will take place on June 7. It will be a Thursday. Those who are doing the parapsychism school will have a discount, but it's open for all of those who would like to experiment the technique of the guinea pig consciousness. So it will take place on July 7. For further information, refer to CEAEC. Good afternoon. CEAEC stages its debate every Sunday, and on the last Sunday of the month this debate is done in partnership with Conscious. So there is a topic with conscienciometry. In this case, today it will be Djalma Fonseca, Eliel Queiroz with the topic Inventariology, Stockology, with a focus on extraphysicality, and it will be broadcast also. So those who would like to go there, it is on the distance learning room, or those who would like to participate at a distance, you go www.conscious.org.br. Thank you. Good afternoon, you all. I would like to remind you that the promotional course for the promotional price for the course Disperticity as a goal that will take place in Rio de Janeiro will be valid until July 30. It takes place in Brazil every 2 years. It will get started in January 2012. And we would like to tell you that even though there are 7 months to go, more than half of the places are taken. It is given by professors Wagner Alegrete and Nancy Trivelato. They give both theoretical and practical classes with individual approaches. So there are several interesting topics. So take advantage of the promotional prices until June 30. So you can also refer to the IAC branch offices to participate. So we hope you all enjoy it. Good afternoon. We would like to invite you for the complementarian course that will take place on July 15 to 17 with the topic Intermissivist. The epicenters will be Leonardo Fermato and Adriana Lopes. For further information, contact CEAEC or through 5545 3525 2652. That's the phone number. The entry for tomorrow is the confrontation, philosophy, hollow philosophy, topic Conscienciology. The author is Arlindo Alcadipani. Thank you. Good afternoon, you all.